Time out with Tim. Oh.
Open up your mind and let me in. Open up your mind and let me in. Open up your mind and let me in.
Hello, welcome to Time Out with Timo. I'm your host, Tim Owens. As always, very grateful and happy to be here today. Tell you what, I found a pretty interesting video. There was a young lady that was dropping some facts, truth, as they say. Now, some of you guys may be offended by some of the content of this video. I don't agree with everything she said, but a lot of what she has a lot of truth to it. Have you guys ever wondered how you were in a professional environment and some of the people who were supposed to be professionals were not very professional? I know you have, because I have. I remember about 6 months ago, I was having a conversation with a coworker of mine, one of my good friends. We were talking, and I was telling him about a situation that I had. I dealt with someone that had a very high position in their career. Let's say this person was the head of an organization, but they were one of the most mean, nasty people that I've ever met in my life. But they were in a position where they had to deal with people. They were very nasty, very mean, very narcissistic, very controlling. If you said anything, I know I use the word very too much. I get it. But I have to make my point. This person was a nasty, mean person. Easily one of the top 5 worst people I've ever met. No matter how you spoke to this individual, they just became meaner and meaner, just like a rattlesnake. So when I was telling my friend about that person I had to deal with in a professional capacity, he said, well, they just didn't respect you. That's all it boiled down to. Just because a person has a high position or a doctorate doesn't make them a person of good moral qualities. Doesn't make them a righteous person. And I agree with him 1,000%. Then I came across this video with this young lady speaking about the very sad thing. So without further ado, let me play the video and I'll give some commentary after. Let's get into it.
Let's talk about ghetto graduates and how to recognize the signs of a ghetto graduate. One is a lack of communication or poor communication. 2, lack of common sense. And 3, lack of emotional intelligence. I'm coming from the experience of growing up in a very poverty-stricken neighborhood and not seeing any professionals other than ministers who weren't even trained in divinity and theology. They just woke up and said, God placed a calling in my life. I didn't know any real professionals with degrees until I went to college. So how I present myself, in a way that's professional, I learned it. This is learned behavior, how I show up, how to be conservative, to be refined and polished in public, in professional settings. Now, when I'm with my friends, when I'm hanging out with my family, it's a completely different Helena. It's the ghetto Helena. So I'm not saying, I consider myself more country ghetto than just blatant. I'm more country, but I'll own it. I'll say I got some ghetto ways about myself. But I want you to know and be able to recognize that there are people, just because they have a degree does not mean that they're smarter than you, does not mean that they're better than you. And if you are the person listening with a degree, you are not better than anybody. You're not smarter than anybody. We all know that a degree is a specialized subject. So you only know a very tiny fragment of knowledge of this world, okay? So what you need to know is how to communicate. And the poor communication is, so you guys let me know, have you ever met some ghetto graduates? I know I met them even when doing hiring. And I hire a lot of high-paying professionals. And some of them come in and I'm like, how did you get to this position? How? You are so, but they have a degree, and so they work that degree. But this is number one. Poor communication. They are know-it-alls. Because they have the degree, you can't tell them nothing. They are very one-sided. The world revolves around them. A lot of them are narcissists. They do not know how to articulate their thoughts. They do not know how to communicate effectively at all. I even know some physicians that you're like, how could a physician, a doctor, be ghetto? If he or she does not know how to communicate effectively, they have no bedside manner, they're not going to check on you for real, they're only looking at the numbers, looking at that chart real quick, that is a sign of a ghetto graduate. Everybody that has a degree does not know how to treat people. That's my point. Number 2 is a lack of common sense. They don't know how to read a room. They don't know how to pick up on social cues and they have no situational awareness. They're not aware of, they know their job, okay? They're not aware of somebody comes in, they may be having a bad day. They don't know how to have a general conversation. Oh, I'm sorry that happened, or my condolences, or are you doing okay? They are, like I said, one-sided. They know it all. You can't tell them anything. And they don't read the room. They don't read the room at all. They don't know how to adjust the temperature. They don't care how you're feeling. They're not thinking about you. Some people, I was like, man, even with some nurses, I'm like, how did you become a nurse? You are the most heartless person. But they have degrees. Let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know. You can drop it right here if I'm wrong. But they're not able to, they don't have like that customer service, that natural customer service. I posted in one of my shorts that when me and my daughter went to the Centurion Lounge, it's the American Express Lounge in the Hartsfield Airport in Atlanta. And I love going there because it's always really good premium service. But this one time when we're going, a man, we go to the counter, we're all excited to see what kind of dishes they have, because usually they come up with a theme. The chef is really amazing. Deborah Von Treese is very amazing. And we were excited about what theme she had come up with for the night or the morning. The guy at the front desk, he does not acknowledge me. He does not say good morning or anything, but he had done that to everyone else. But when I came up, let me tell you how he treated me for real. I gave him my card. Which is a Platinum American Express card. I gave him our tickets. I gave him my identification. He does not address me, okay? He gets on the phone and he calls to verify that my card is active. He did not do that to anybody else, okay? Because nobody else was my skin color, let's be for real, but he was. Pick up what I'm putting down. He wanted to check and make sure that my flight was valid. I gave him the tickets. He was like, I got to make sure you're not on standby. It has my seat number on it. And then when he hangs up the phone, he looks at my daughter up and down and say, hey, so how's school going? Mind you, this whole time, he still has not addressed me. He says, hey, how's school going? And she said, fine. He says, fine. Oh, you shy. And I said, hold on, that's inappropriate. You didn't even, first of all, you shouldn't be talking to my daughter, and you didn't greet me. And he said, I said, didn't acknowledge me. And he said, she can speak for herself. Man, I tell you, I thought I was talking to somebody on the streets. This is what I'm talking about, a ghetto graduates. It's a lot of them. And I said, she can speak for herself. I said, boy, I would jump across this desk and wring your neck. Do not talk to my daughter. So the ghetto in me now has to come out because I'm able to suppress it. I'm not saying you can't be yourself, but you know we have to code switch. And there's a time and place for everything. And if he had greeted me, it would have been a completely different flow. And if he had treated me the same way he had treated everyone else, because I was in a long line. We were in a line waiting for a moment, okay? He didn't do that to everybody else. So I'm already feeling some type of way like, you got to make sure I can even come into this establishment. And then you greet my daughter like that, like you're flirting, like you're some dude off the street. And then you're going to completely disregard me. The different flow would have been if he said, good morning, Miss Paschal. Oh, you guys are flying out to wherever. Or he could have just said, good morning, Miss Paschal. He could have looked at my daughter and said, oh, so how's school going? And she would have said, fine. And he said, okay, well, let me check on these things real quick. And he can go ahead and, if that's his job, go ahead and verify everything. But it's a different flow. You understand what I'm saying? It's a situational awareness. It's being aware of people as human beings and saying, oh, good morning. How are you doing? Then you can go on to the child. but it's a proper etiquette. And in my shorts, I felt like I had to explain to people that flow. And I know I'm old school. I know I'm in my 40s, but I wish we could bring back some of those proper skills, because I learned that because I was in a village. My neighborhood, as ghetto poor as it was, my grandmother would check me. Her sisters, my great aunts, would check me. My nanny, my great grandmother, would check me. I remember when we were in Walgreens, and I'll wrap this up. I remember when we were in Walgreens, and I was like 7 or 8 years old, and someone from church recognized my great grandmother. We called her Nanny, and they said, they spoke to her, "Hey, Sister Carpenter, da 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 da," and then they greeted me, and they say, "Hi, Sister Paschal, how are you?" And I said, "Okay." My great grandmother twisted my ear, and she said, and she held it, and she says, "No, that is not how we answer. We answer fine and you. If anybody asks you how you're doing, you ask them how they're doing back." Twisted my ear. I was checked throughout my entire childhood. Your college does not teach you what your parents and family should have taught you. So just the basic heart of humanity and value and principles, I did learn that from my family, but how to show up in professional settings, I did learn that in college, and I learned that from my mentors and my professors. And then with me being in a sorority and other leadership organizations where blacks were really at high levels, they also mentored me and told me how to show up. The final thing is the lack of emotional intelligence. And I put that not being able to take constructive feedback, not being able to, be criticized in any type of way without overreacting, without reacting. Like I said, back to number one, they take everything so personal, or they just don't care because it's all about them. They don't care about how you feel. They don't care about what you think. So that is pretty much how I would just wrap this up and say, just because you see somebody and they have a degree and they're professional, I don't really trust anybody at this point. When I was young, I thought, hey, if you got a degree, because like I said, I didn't know anybody with a degree. So I'm like, oh my God, this is a professional, this is a doctor, this is a nurse, this is an accountant, this is whatever. I'm like, I just was so impressed, and I would trust whatever they said. But we are in a day and time where it doesn't matter, because some people say, they're passing out degrees like Tic Tacs, because some people they get it, but some people, I feel like, honest to God, even though I have a master's degree, I feel like some people really just memorize their way through college. And I'm mainly talking about bachelor's and even some masters. Now, once you get a little further up and you have PhDs and JDs and all that, you may be a little bit more aware of your surroundings, but it doesn't mean that they are a great human being. It does not mean that they care about your well-being. It does not mean that they have good hearts and they're good people. So I don't trust them like I did when I was younger, because I'm a professional too. And so for those of you know, we do code switch. So I'm not saying that you can't have your ghetto ways about you, but there is a time and place for everything. And in a professional setting, pay attention and recognize the signs of a ghetto graduate and stay away from them, because there's nothing you can tell them.
All right, welcome back. Now, if you got upset or offended, you may be one of the individuals that she talked about in that video. I, for sure, am not one of those people. I treat everyone with respect. I'm courteous, polite, kind, always willing to listen, give you my ear if you need it to unload your burdens of your day. But I prefer not sometime. But it's still there if I must. That's a little humor, folks. But hey, truth is truth, facts are facts. You enjoyed that video. Don't go to work and start a fight with your boss. Don't go start a fight with your significant other, because they may fall into that category. But however, hope you guys gain something from it on the more serious side. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch my content. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so. Hit that like button on the video. As always, happy people do not cause problems. Peace.
If everybody winning, who's losing? Man, who's losing? I'm trying to make it make sense. It's like it's so confused. I see the pain in your eyes from all the lonely nights. I swear I know how I feel. It just don't feel